probably a wee bit over the top. But I've been collecting and grafting and breeding them for 35 years roughly. So I probably know quite a bit more than a lot of people about it. But there's going to be some other people out there that know different angles, and we're willing to talk.
A few of our princes, grevillea princes out there.
There are some princes, even the odd princess if you're lucky.
So tell me the story about how you got into propagating grevilleas.
I came down from Darwin about 82 to my place I had out towards Gingin, and went to my mother's place in Gingin. She had a plant called a honey gem, which most people know about, and a Robin Gordon and a Ned Kelly and a coconut ice. I thought, wow, these are fantastic. I'll go and buy some, and I found I couldn't. They just weren't readily available. So at that stage I said, well, I'll try and propagate them myself, which I did achieve. And then I started collecting grevilleas, and then after I got about 40 or 50, I found that the ones I really wanted came from Western Australia. And they just won't survive on their own roots over here, so I moved to grafting.
So tell me about this grafting process. I can see some little seedlings or young plants there, and they've sort of got a little bit of sort of sticky tape or something around them. Is that right? Tell me about the process. I've dumbed it down there. Let's hear from the Grevillea King how it's really done.
Basically, all my plants are grafted onto silky oaks, the Grevillea robusta. And the theory is that you use the root system of Grevillea robusta instead of the piece that you're going to put on the top, because it's not. Silky oak is resistant to most of the problems that you get over here. It'll sit in gutters, as people will probably know. So it'll handle wet feet, it'll handle all the diseases and rots that go, whereas the piece on the top won't. So what we basically do is you wound the rootstock, that's the silky oak, and you wound the scion, which is the piece you want, with similar wounds, the same size hopefully, and then you whack them together, bind them together with a special tape called parafilm, and then you keep them moist for days, weeks, sometimes months. I've had some after 6 months decided to grow, and then they hopefully take neatly, strongly, and there you have it. You then have a Western Australian species growing on an Eastern Australian silky oak. Doesn't always work. Some of them don't go on to silky oak, so I have to do it twice. I've got to put something else on the silky oak before I put the desired scion on.
So how many different grevilleas are there, Richard?
They keep finding more.
Really?
There's two groups, really, you'd have to say. There's the species, and then there's the hybrids. Well, the hybrids keep on doubling up because I'm doing quite a few here. Species, I think you're in 300 or 400.
Whoa. And that's all native to Australia?
All Australian plants.
What do you love about the grevillea? What really speaks to you about it as a plant?
Maintenance, size, colour. You can get them from ground covers, which are only 10 centimetres tall by 4, 5, 6 metres across. You can get them to the silky oak, which will be 30 metres tall. Anywhere in between those two, you can have any colour except blue. You can say that within reason you prune them once, twice a year. They attract birds by the million. Yeah, what more do you want?
What about our soil type around this area?
The soil type isn't really an issue because of the silky oak. That's the grafted ones I'm talking about. Ones on their own roots that you can buy in any of the nurseries, if they're a combination of one or two Western Australian species, they've been grown in some very clean areas in the propagating nurseries, and when you put them into your garden and it gets really wet, they have been known to keel over, which is why you go grafted.
Now, you have referred to some of these as your children, of your children. We never have favourite children, do we? We're not allowed to say that, but you must. Tell me a bit about one of your favourites.
No, I can't. No, I can't. The very first one that we put out was one called Billy Bonkers, and it's called Billy Bonkers, not for any rude reason, but because we had a dog called Billy, and he used to urinate on it frequently, and he turned out to be quite nuts. So that was Billy Bonkers.
So they are tough then?
Oh, they're tough. Yeah, they don't mind a bit of urea. That's one of the things that you can add to grevilleas to make them grow well, but what you mustn't do is add phosphorus. So people don't chuck chicken manure around. It's quite lethal for them in quantity. I breed them relatively frequently. I think we've got something like 15, 20 different hybrids out there. And the newest one is now and always the favourite.
Yeah.
And then when it doesn't sell, it drops off. I don't like it anymore, so I move to the next one.
So how many hybrids have you come up with in your 30 plus years?
Well, there's about 20 something out there at the moment, but there's another 10 or 15 to come, so 35, 40. And it's not an easy job. It sounds like it must be, but you just got to work on it day by day by day, and then you've got to be ruthless when they come up. That you say, no, that's the wrong colour. Oh. No, it doesn't work properly. Oh, this is too prickly, etc., etc., etc. Or, yeah, just don't like it, throw it away.
So it is a bit of a waiting game as well. It's like, again, like children, you got to wait till they grow up to see what they're going to turn out like.
And then you throw them away.
So you've got to wait a little bit for the plant to mature before you know exactly what you're getting?
4 or 5 years.
Whoa.
So if you've got, there's one up there which is perhaps a bit more favourite called Super Duper. It's a tiny plant, it's less than a metre tall, it's about a metre round, it flowers all year, it's got soft foliage, it's a gorgeous little thing. But that is a cross between a cross and a cross and a cross. I think it's 5 generations back from the first cross. Then you recross that with something else, and then the progeny from that, you select the one you want and then redo it again with something else, and then redo it again, and then finally, if you're lucky, you get what you want.
Wow.
So that was 1 seed out of 3, and that's all we got. And the other 2 were rubbish. So there he is.
Well, I better be careful where I urinate. I might end up with a grevillea named after me.
Yeah, you could. You also back into some of them. They're extremely prickly. You might just be screaming and shouting for a few minutes.